What's going on, Excel fanatics? Verdexes here. We have been working on the second Excel tutorial that is going a little bit further into exploring pivot tables. So I already made a part 1 on this. Now moving into part 2 where we finished up on tab 7. There's like 24 tabs on this, so I'm hoping this goes kind of quick. But I hope it's thorough for you guys' sake. Tab number 8. Let's review the pivot table you just made, but this time we've added some special colors. The colors make it easy for you to see where the row, column, and field values are located. Yes. Column is red, row, what is that, orange, and the value is blue. Right, so the sum amount, which is the value here, buyer, type. Here's another way to think about it. The row field is on the left and the column field is at the top. Each of these provide a condition to the value which sums them up. So row field. The row field provides a condition and the column field provides a condition and the value field sums them up. Think of it that way when using the fields list. The row field is on the left and the column field is at the top. Each of these provide a condition to the value which sums them up. So this is just the box that I just highlighted here, just to make things a little bit easier for you guys. I mean, you can read this stuff too. Don't get me wrong, I think this is very helpful, especially for somebody who's not familiar. But the best way you're going to learn is to kind of just play around with it yourself. Just making up a data set, creating a pivot table, and then just playing around with the different column headers there, just so you have a better feel for what. Because even if you have experience with a pivot table, working with a new data set, you might want to play around with it too. So, it always is going to be about like trial and error, just when it comes down to it too. Which might have been a little bit of an exaggerated term, but just keep playing around with it, I think. On the next tab, one thing to be aware of: if a column field adds a lot of columns to a pivot table, it would make it very wide. Right. Which goes back to, I'll try this again, because in my last video I was trying to show you can just drag it down. It kind of doesn't look too pretty here. But it looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Even though this gets in the way. It looks, you can see everything a little more condensed, right? So when you have the rows stacked like this. So putting the type on top doesn't really look that good, right? But if we put the buyer on top, it looks a little more organized. Again, doing trial and error. But I don't think that's what they wanted me to do. Oh, yes it did, see? I know what I'm talking about. Here's the alternative to that. You could use a second row field instead. A second row field will appear indented under the first row field. Right, so first row, this being at the top, right? These are all the buyers and everything underneath, and then it would be like and so on and so forth, right? So if I actually went ahead and put like the date here, the date would be underneath each one of the types, so then it could just keep going like and layering and layering. So when you have it like that, if it goes on almost like infinitely like that, they might be covering this. I'm probably getting ahead of myself. If you have the pivot table selected, there's a collapse field button here. So notice that this is condensed, but it has these little plus signs. So I could open up just Mom's, I can and close again, open up just Kelly's, and then when I use that plus, it expands it. I didn't even read the rest of this. Second row field makes a vertically oriented pivot table rather than horizontal. Some people find vertical pivot. Yeah, right. So it comes down to testing it out and seeing what visually makes sense and what will give you the most, what'll tell you the story out of the data here the best way. And this, I'd 100% agree, in this format is so much easier to read than going the long way. Sometimes people call a second row field a secondary row field. It's kind of redundant. Okay. On the next sheet, you'll add a second row field, and you'll do that by dragging the type field under the buyer field. Right, which is what we just did. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm going to see if we can wrap this up in 3 parts, but I'll let you guys know. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you next time.